So here it is, the main pattern editor. First thing I want to show you is the keyboard shortcut for tooltips. So this button here, T-tip, basically if you turn tooltips on, it will pop up a little box like that and it will give you a inline kind of manual. So it says there, Control T is to click to show tooltips like this one. So if at any point you want to look at the tooltips, if you Control T, then basically anything you hover over within reason, it will tell you. It will basically tell you what's what. Okay, so that's a nice one, right? So I'll be using that quite a lot. And then Control T, just turn it off. So very, very, very quickly, mate. The basics. This position, pattern, length, restart. You don't need me to explain that. I did notice that it's a bit buggy when you change position or pattern while you're playing a tune. I've noticed that it sort of glitches out the playback of the pattern until the next one. So that's noted. So apologies for that. I'll fix that at some point. Again, this is obviously choosing the instrument that you may be composing within the pattern editor. This is the volume of the instrument. And as you probably remember, 0 is loudest and F is the quietest. So the value is actually like an attenuation value. And that's the same effect as if you use the volume tracker command in the pattern, which historically was C, but as of now it's V. So yeah, that's that one for you. Anyway, so there's that. Tick speed is an interesting one. Basically, this is your the speed of your actual replay routine. So by default, it's actually at C8, which is 200 hertz. Just because basically I've just grown accustomed to making 200 hertz instruments because they just sound nicer. But as Gwen pointed out, they're quite expensive. So basically you might want to pick something a bit more modest like 32, which is 50 hertz or 6400 hertz. So you can just obviously click down and up there. And if you hold down shift, it will do a quicker a turbo kind of up and down, yeah. And if you remember from the old tracker, shift is a kind of turbo boost for a lot of things. So if I'm scrolling up and down like that, if I press shift, you can see it's like a turbo boost. So that sometimes comes in handy, yeah. Okay, so that's tick speed. We'll keep it at 200 hertz for now. Obviously, stuff that you do at 200 hertz, the settings that you use and instrument settings, they will sound completely different at 50 hertz. So if you build all your instruments at 200 hertz and then you try and play them in a 50 hertz tune, you're going to need to do a bit of work on the instruments to actually make them sound loosely the same. Okay. Transport stuff. Play is an obvious one. You can use space to start, stop, as you know. You can use, which triggers that button. You can use Alt. Yeah. So if you do Alt and space, it carries on playing from where you left off, which is quite handy. You can cycle the pattern, so Control P, and then it'll just cycle the current pattern. And you can Control P to toggle that on off at any time. So as you're playing, yeah, you can just ding and that'll loop that pattern. So that should make sense to you, mate. This is what they call a bug. Ignore all that. Yeah, there's a few of those in the amongst that. Right, edit. So I can't even remember how I used to have it. I used to have some sort of cycle where you press space a number of times and it would sort of cycle through the different edit modes. But from now on, if you want to edit at any time, you can just press Control E and that'll toggle edit mode. So when from that point on, you can add stuff, right? Control E, stop. Don't need to tell you what that does. Moving on down to here, step. This is the number of steps that every time you enter a note, the number of steps it takes. So you can either just press left mouse button to go up or right mouse button to go down, or you can press Control and a number from 1 to 8. Let's turn off tooltips so you can see that working. This is quite handy, man. Control 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So that's really, really, let me just delete these notes. So actually I'll do step 1, Control E, just delete those notes there. Yeah, so Control 4, and then obviously you can do your kick drums or whatever you're doing there, right? Octave, same deal. Left mouse button goes up, right mouse button goes down. There's a keyboard shortcut from that as well. In fact, it's just plus or minus. Or is it? No, it's not. What's that? Is it control? My bad. So it's control plus and minus. All right, so I need to revise that that tooltip because I've just written plus and minus there. All right, so control plus and minus for the octave up and down. Delete is obviously, as you know, delete, like so. Sorry. You can use the old turbo button as well if you want to turbo delete. There's other ways to do it, which I'll talk you through later. Moving quickly on, this old chestnut. Remember this one? Tab, which is the pattern lock, which I think was a favourite of yours. So at any time I can just press tab and I can move around, or I can press tab again to pop back in. So you know that one. So it's still there, mate. You'll be pleased to hear. Groove, I'll do a video on this. What it is it's a 16-step sequence that represent an equivalent step in a pattern. And where you would use like F timing previously to change the tempo of the track, you can still do that. But you can, if you were just doing a sort of F4, F5, F4, F5 for like a groove kind of shuffle, you can basically put it straight into here, which is really handy. So you don't waste using your effects channel because you've only got one, which I've subsequently realised is a bit tight, and actually you really should have more than one. But we've only got one, so you can do the groove in here. So you can, the equivalent would be like doing something like that. So basically with this hex entry, you see these are all over the place. So you drop a cursor and you can move left and right and you can type the number in however you like. But you can also press up and down and the number will go up and down, which is quite handy as well in certain instances. Yeah, so I'll do a video for the groove later, but that's what that does. When on the side note, when you're entering values in these hex editors, if you've dropped a cursor, you have to press enter to leave it. If you don't, then none of the other keyboard shortcuts will work. So if you find that it's not working, think it's crashed or it's done something funky, just check that you haven't got a cursor dropped somewhere. These obviously just text fields. Instrument, composer, that will get put into your sound file. Mutes, yeah, as you'd expect. See, look, classic case there. I'm trying to press these mutes, but it's not working because I've still got a cursor dropped here. I'm just going to clear that out there. All right, so mutes, they kind of work. They're a bit shit. It's for whatever reason I find it really difficult to mute the channels if they're timer channels. So I've done my best, but they behave a bit funky, but they more or less work. So insert position, delete position, kind of what you'd expect. I've got a feeling there's a keyboard shortcut, insert, delete. I'm not 100% sure on that. Clear is like all your sort of clear and kill functions. So if we click on that, it will give you an option to kill everything. And you can either click yes or no, or you can press Y or N. So for these kind of yes, no boxes, you can press yes, for example, there, and it's cleared everything. If you press no, it'll ask you if you want to kill all the instruments. If you press no, it'll ask you if you want to kill the song, and so on. So if you see a yes, no box, you can use Y and N to do that. So very quickly here, I won't go into, I'll do some more videos on these, but block functions, it's all your copy and paste stuff. There's loads of keyboard shortcuts for these, which are much more useful than using these buttons. So it's Control C, Control V, cut and paste kind of vibe. Selecting your start and end point with F1 and F2. And I can't remember if you've used this before, but it's, you know, you literally just decide where you want to start your pattern and where you want to, sorry, your block, and where you want to end it. F1, F2, and it's there. And then, you know, you can Control C and cut the object, and then you can Control V and paste it wherever you want. Anyway, obviously it's an empty song which isn't demonstrating that very well, but I'll go into that later. Preferences doesn't do anything yet, mate. Help, it's very incomplete, but there's some stuff like there's the tracker codes here, which will give you a clue of what you're doing. I think you can press escape to come out of that page, and likewise with the blocks, you can just press escape and leave those. File, all your load and save stuff. Some of this may or may not work at the moment, but all the key stuff works. And that is the main sequencer pattern edit page. So we'll dive straight into the instrument editor. You can either go here to instrument editor, or you can Control I to toggle that. And you can always escape out of the instrument editor as well. But yeah, this is where the fun really starts.